silent no more. I'm done fighting this war. What I feel in weakness is something worth fighting for. Silent no more. I'm unlocking the door. If strength is being honest, then I'm stronger than before.
Hey, how you doing?
So I'm so glad that you are here and that you are going to be sharing about this, what I feel like is super, super important, especially, I mean, it's always been important, but especially since the COVID days, right? I feel like there are many people that during that time, even afterwards, I guess, they really came out and started sharing how being isolated affected them. And sadly, not just through COVID did we lose a lot of lives, but through people taking their own lives from depression or mental illness, or they didn't have anybody that they could talk to. So I am so glad that you are here. I'm so glad to hear about the podcast that you are starting, and we'll certainly get to that, and your focus and using your purpose as a mission that is going to help so many others. So thank you for being here. Tell us, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why it is so important for you to share.
Wow. Well, again, thanks for having me. And just wanted to, just take a little time to slow down a little bit in this fast-paced world. I mean, can you believe it's already almost April?
I know,
So yeah,
crazy.
absolutely. So just taking a little bit of time and slowing down, just appreciating the time that we have now. Like you said, we lost a lot of people, and taking this time and slowing down is just giving me some time to reflect. And a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Chicago, on the West Side. Moved out south, like most folks did. Grew up, had a rough time in school. You grew up in the household where I had a step parent. I was the oldest of three siblings, and during that time, it was a difficult time because everybody was going through it, and like they said, there's really no textbooks on how to raise kids, but just going through some difficult times through then with the way I was raised. Nowadays, you definitely would call it child abuse as far as for putting your hands on children,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe exercising and engaging in ways that you probably shouldn't. Definitely frowned upon these days, and it kind of set me off on a path of having issues with authority, pretty much. Being in a home where you didn't have anybody to talk to, and when you tried to talk to somebody, it was, constant shutdown or resistance. And it naturally, being young, you're naturally inquisitive. You want to ask questions. You naturally want to know about things, and just imagine being shut down every time you ask a question, whether it be verbally or physically.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to grow a little angry. You tend to try to figure things out on your own as you go through life, and not necessarily, want to look to those elders older than you, or them have more or less more experience than you, because of the patterns that you exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, going through some of those things, I had a hard time dealing with authority. couldn't pay attention in school. Wound up getting kicked out of school. Went to alternative high school, and it was pretty cool. Pace High School, man. Shout out to Pace High School. We They had a Habitat for Humanity program that was there, because I wasn't really good at school back then, and that was something that we got a lot of community outreach, help from the community that kind of helped us out a little bit, gave us some tools and some trades, and also exchanged that for some good grades. So that so that made it easier for some of us that couldn't pay attention. But making it, out of an alternative school, it was 12 people, and I was number one out of 12, so I was a valedictorian.
Nice.
That moment, I could say that like turned the turning point in my life, but it absolutely did not. But it wound up being monumental as I look back and reflect over the years. But going through that time, it led me to the military, because I didn't have any other options, because school wasn't on my list. So it kind of led me to the military.
So let me ask you this. Did you have, I I think about so the men in my life, as when I hear another man share, I really think about my two brothers. Um, our father was he was unfortunately he was a raging alcoholic, and I don't blame him. You know, as a kid, you don't know what to think. You know, you're afraid, and you. Well, I'll speak for myself. I longed for a relationship with my dad. I wanted to know him. I just wanted my dad. I wanted to know that he loved me unconditionally. But it was through the alcoholism, it was very conditional. And so, and I think about my brothers, especially my younger brother. We're really close, but I think about him and missed opportunities in sports, because as he got older, he's incredible, like such an amazing at everything he does. And I think, man, I wonder, you know, if he would have had some support or encouragement or something. But did you have any missed opportunities like that? I mean, do you feel like without having that positive role model in your life, do you feel like you missed out on some of those opportunities as well?
I won't say that I missed out on opportunities, because I would say I was put in position. I was put into circumstances and positions where I learned about other opportunities. So I
Mm,
didn't miss out on something that I didn't know about, because I was too busy in the moment and experiencing the opportunities that I had. And it's, now you can look back on, growing up, and you can talk about, a bunch of us, I guess they called us latchkey kids,
mhm, mhm.
things like that. You get home and you be there, and your parent get there maybe about 6, 7 p.m. They come in hectic, frantic, trying to make dinner. And all along, you and your siblings have been there holding it down the whole entire day. So
Yes.
inadvertently, you're learning leadership skills, you're learning management skills, you're learning people skills, and you're learning how to kind of direct traffic and help within the household. But it just comes back to that education piece, because you're learning roles and responsibilities that can help you and benefit you throughout life. But if it's not identified, and then you can't capitalize off the moment, because everything should be a teachable moment. So if you would learn in that moment what you were actually learning, I think it would have been beneficial, versus
Mm.
looked at as being as neglect or a form of abuse or something along those lines.
I love that, you know, and it's true. I can remember having conversations with my siblings and, you know, us saying that, boy, we pretty much raised ourselves. We never really asked for help with our homework. We did everything ourselves. And yes, I am grateful for that because, and I'm not speaking for every kid nowadays or anything like that, but we learned a lot having to be at home by ourselves with two parents at work. And so I am grateful for that. I do know at the time, like you said, just kind of live in the moment. You just did it and held down the house while your parents were at work, you know.
Right.
Um, you go into the military. What form of the military did you join?
I joined the Air Force.
Air Force. Okay. And thank you for your service in the Air Force. Tell me about your time there.
Man, it was amazing. Again, it was one of those things in the beginning. I didn't like it. It was it was something new, and it was something that I hadn't chosen for myself. It was something else somebody had chosen for me. So naturally, in the state of mind that I was in, of having an issue with authority, having an issue with people delegating and telling me what to do, it it, it, it wasn't that I had an issue with people telling me what to do. I had an issue with people just saying do it because I said so. And it
Mm,
was like, well, if you tell me why, and if you explain to me how, or give me something, you know what I mean? I'm sure I can do great, or I can do well at it. But it
mhm,
was more or less, hey, do it, and just do it because I said so. It wasn't necessarily, again, it wasn't informative. It was just that's the way I was raised. It was just bad leadership. And I mean, there's nothing else to call it but that. But so for me, that's where the where I had the issues with it. So again, joining the military was exactly that again.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was forced into that, and then learning how to cope and exist in that. But luckily, I met some great people at my first station. Damian Davis, Mike Brown, Vernon Borley. Those guys, they were some mentors, and they wound up being some big brothers that I wound up having for about 29 years now in total.
So I was thinking as you were chatting, as you were sharing, and I know that there are other people that are listening that I'm sure feel the same way or had some sort of similar experiences. I'll speak for myself. I can relate. I think when you say if someone would have just said why and maybe taught me a little bit better instead of me trying to guess and then get in trouble for guessing wrong. It would be nice to have known the why behind it. Not that I was rebellious or trying to say, well, why do I have to do that? You said in our little pre-interview chat that you lacked nurturing. And I feel the same. Like I just did not have any kind of, well, for my mom, I did, but, and my dad did the best he can. I don't want to say blame and shame and all that, but how I felt as a kid, I just didn't feel like I was nurtured too much by my dad. So the whys behind, also the whys behind the discipline, to understand why, maybe we were being disciplined as opposed to just getting a beating, for you did it wrong. And
Right,
it's like,
right. Yeah. Instead of giving me a knuckle sandwich, you could have just said, "Hey, look, this is the reason why we're actually going through this, and this is how it benefits you later in life." Instead, it was just like, bam, and don't ask me again. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
So that didn't help me out at all in life, but kind of set me back a little bit. But again, learning that, and that's when so when I started to delve back into school and took an interest into psychology, and that's when I learned about the nature versus nurture, and I was like, oh wow, okay, I had a lot of nurturing, not necessarily the nature or the nurture, and it's all about balance. So it doesn't matter if you had necessarily one or the other, because you can have too much of each, or either, but it's about balance. You know what I mean? You have to have enough of each. And the scale was tipped a little bit to the to the other side in my case. And then and it's not necessary. I didn't find an issue with that either. It was just the people that you encounter in life, they don't necessarily know that or even care. So that's where the issues come into play. So it's not that that I have an issue or that I'm upset or why was I raised this way. It's just the society that we live in. Nobody cares enough to either take an interest. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Jamaal, you hit it on the head. That is so true. And I think a lot of times people feel misunderstood because people don't care to know the why or they don't want to really know. I don't know, maybe you have a better way to explain it, but I guess like you said, people just don't care. They don't know why we are the way we are, but they probably don't want to even sit down and hear my whole childhood story. But I just feel like if more people cared, then they would understand, why you are the way you are. But instead, they judge. They judge you because they don't know.
Yeah, and I just I attribute that to lack of communication, effective communication. Because imagine when you see somebody in the morning and they say good morning, you say good morning, they say how are you, and well, I'm having a shitty day, and they were like,
yes,
because they're not expecting to continue that conversation to go on, because it's a pattern. We go through the motions. I say hello, you say hello back. How you doing? Weekend was great. Nobody really cares. These are just fillers that we're throwing into the conversation, or canned comments. But and it's shallow. And the moment you start to get a little deeper into the conversation, that's when people get uncomfortable because Now it's like, whoa, whoa.
Yes,
Yeah. So, it's hit or miss, it's all subjective as well.
you're right. So, but Jamal, so you were in the military, you served in the military, you obviously realized that it wasn't really that you had anything against or problems with authority. It was just you needed to learn. You just needed to learn and to grow. And you were in the military. You had created really great friendships and relationships. And then you get out. Your time in the military is done. You are discharged, and you had mentioned when we were chatting that you had PTSD. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, typically in the military, and I can't speak it now because I retired in 2018, but it was a stigmatism to be identified as having PTSD. A lot of people were worried about security clearances and worried about being labeled a certain type of way and also to have a TBI because at that time it was just another. I don't want to say a black eye, but it was just another negative indicator about something or somebody dealing with veterans at the time. And so I just started to educate myself because I was going through therapy. I was, talking to, therapists on base through the VA. I was talking to therapists off base. And I started to educate myself as well because I was looking at, what I was going to transition to do when I retired from the military. So I got a couple of psychology degrees. I thought that I wanted to become a clinical psychologist. But, after dealing with the government, for over 20 years, and then I wanted to be able to use my own personality and some of the things that I've learned, some of the skills that I've able to hone, over those 20 plus years, some of the effective communication talents and different workshops and team building things I've learned over the years. So instead of doing that, I looked into becoming a coach. I had never heard of a coach before, only in the sports, and only through, talking to different peer groups. They had advised me, hey, you should look into this. This is something that you do naturally. You're really well at it, and we think you can excel at it. So as I was transitioning out, I wound up, finally getting my master's degree in industrial organizational psychology. So I was like, okay, so now that we got all of this stuff together, what are we going to do? We spent all, 28 years of transforming this person, so now what are you going to do with yourself? And I just had a passion for helping people. And I think I pissed more people off than helped over the years because I've always just tried to help people, even when they didn't want my help. Even my own kids were like, dude, stop talking to us about perspectives. Just, are we eating chicken or rice? Which one is it? So I ruffled a lot of feathers over the years. I've had good intentions, I promise. So that's what kind of led me down this path. 2021, I started the coaching company. And then now going 5 years strong, just signed on with the Texas Wild Hogs Arena football team, working with as their director of business development and coaching as well. So, in full totality, for over 4 years, this is what it's grown and kind of morphed into. So definitely believe in the power of manifestation.
Yes, congratulations. My goodness, that is amazing. So, what made you, I guess, decide that wait, someone's asking, do you have a YouTube channel, Jamaal?
I do, but then my channel will be on Prospera Network, and the show will be called Silent No More. And the first show should be airing on the 1st of April, so you can follow me on Prospera.
Perfect. Yes, Prospera TV Network, and it's Silent No More. And I'm so glad that you are offering this. I'll tell you, whenever I was beginning and trying to find, people to interview, I was fortunate enough that I had actually quite a few men come on and share their stories and their feelings. And I thought, man, if every man could feel and express their feelings, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people that carry, or a lot of men that carry shame from what's crazy, expressing feelings.
It's the trauma because, whenever you experience or go through that trauma, we just can use a random age of 13 or 16. And if you don't heal and you don't get seen for that trauma, then you don't theoretically move past that trauma, in the mental capacity and problem solving capacity of when you went through that trauma. So you can still be 40, 50 years old, but you still can be, sometimes you'll say, man, he acts just like a kid. And it's like, well, he hasn't processed past that trauma at that particular age. So that's why he can exhibit some of those conditions. So we definitely want people to, to get seen, any man that's out there, because one of the things that I learned, again, a gift and a curse of mine, is when I was younger and going through those sessions, disciplinary issues used to, get the crap beat out of me or whatever the case may be, and there would be people around, and I would just want somebody to help. Like, man, you see this, how the hell are you allowing this? And not, and I would have issue with that. So then, as I got older, people that didn't help other people, I inadvertently had anger towards them, because it would take me back to my childhood when all I wanted was for somebody to help me. So again, that's why I would go above and beyond and overly help people. And then they would be like, hey, back up. Because it's easy to tell somebody to ease up off the throttle versus nobody not knowing when to actually get in and kind of help. So I'd rather go be proactive versus reactive. You tell me not to help versus you saying, hey, why didn't you ever come to help? That's something that I suffer from, and that's my way of getting over it, is by trying to, again, pay it forward. So in anticipation and trying to pay it forward.
Wow. And so how did that, I guess you kind of already answered it, but I guess not having someone to go to or someone to hear you or listen to you when you are feeling any type of way, not helping you when you needed help, and people clearly saw that you needed help. I guess it affected you in terms of it manifested itself in anger.
Not trusting people. You had to do something very extreme in order for me to gain trust. And then that's the irony where the military comes into play in. You're assigned a wingman or a battle buddy. So you automatically have to have somebody that's accountable. So again, that's why, again, I excelled so well, because my own mechanisms, I was forcing people to do that anyway. So then it just became natural that whomever we would naturally look out for, that we will become a team. And then you would understand the concept, of not competing with each other, completing each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're trying to have a conversation. If you're talking while I'm talking, somebody's not listening. It's just impossible, right? Again, and then it just becomes natural that you automatically think of that other person, because that other person is thinking of you. So it's a team, so it's no different between the military, sports, being a first responder, or anybody that has that structure. Is what the bottom line is. Structure is what I didn't know I needed, and then structure is what I fell in love with, because with structure you can do anything. That's just how I feel. That's my personal opinion.
Yes, I love that. So Lynn wants to know how many years.
20 years, Lynn. 20 years.
20 years. My goodness, Jamaal. Okay, and so what led you to wanting to do your own podcast, Silent No More? And are you looking for guests?
I actually didn't want to do one. I just wanted to. I wanted to be on one with other people. Excuse me. Nobody wanted to do the work. So, and then everybody talked about it, but then nobody wanted to do it. And then that's when I started going through some stuff, in December, and I didn't have anybody. And it was just me. And so I said, damn, well, if I don't have anybody to call, this is natural for me. I can figure out a way to get through it. But what about other people out there that's going through the same thing?
How do you get through it, Jamaal? Because that's when you're going through something, men and women, yes, there are many times that we pull our boots on, we get up and we go. You get up, you think of something that you have to do, and then you go. but there are still those feelings that, you know, you have to work through. How do you get through that?
It depends on the situation. And then I'll say, what I do is I try to take the emotion out of it, you know, then start trying to think logical, strategically, you know, to see what the actual problem was. Because one thing you can't do is you can't problem solve if you're pointing the finger and trying to say it's somebody's fault.
Mm.
Right? Obviously, it's somebody's fault. It didn't work.
Right.
So we don't need to figure that out. It didn't work. So let's move on from that. And what happens is people are get caught sewed up and pointing the finger because they don't want to take the blame. Well, I don't have a problem with accountability. You know, being in the military, we took accountability for stuff that wasn't our fault. We got blamed for stuff. You know, everything was your fault. It didn't matter. You know what I mean? Unless it was right, it was everybody's fault. And that's the thing is, you know, you're only worrying about somebody's fault if you're not thinking about the team. You're only worrying about yourself. So again, if you're thinking about the team, how do we move forward together to reach this objective or this goal? But if you're worrying about why you keep saying I didn't do this, well, that's your subconscious and your guilt saying that you know that you didn't do it. You know, because what happens when people get nervous, when people feel guilty about things, they didn't properly prepare. If you prepared, that's when people are typically cocky, you know, a little bit obnoxious,
Yeah.
arrogant, because that's the reason behind it, because they put the work and the effort into doing so. So for me, again, you just sit down, problem solve, and then you just start self-evaluating. And like I said, everything's a teachable moment. You know, did this work? Did this not work? If we would have went right, we would have went left. Just problem solving, and then again, not taking it personal and taking the emotion out of it. It's really
Okay. Let me ask you this. It's going to be maybe a tough question. But so when it's not when your feelings are hurt, you're hurt, and and it's not, and you can't take, you can, but when it's hard and you're hurting and it's not your problem to solve, do you cry, Jamaal? Do you cry? Do you have someone that you go to and you say, man, I'm having a really bad day? And you can have a bad day and still be, hey, maybe that is a problem to solve, but I'm having a bad day and I just need somebody to talk to. I am feeling so sad. And do you cry?
Well, so hold on a second. Yes, I do cry. But the thing is, I don't have a bad day. I might have a bad moment. But I don't take the whole day because of that one moment. What happened? What's the problem? How do we fix it? And how do we move forward? Now, if that takes the rest of the day, then I'm not moping around about it for the rest of the day, because again, it's progress. We're fixing something. So that means we're moving forward. We've identified the problem. And so now we're taking the appropriate steps to move forward. Now, if you sit there and now you're sulking and you're woe is me and you're doing all these other things, now that might contribute to you having a bad day, but then that's self-sabotage. And then that's something that you've inflicted on yourself. That's not something that somebody else has done. So absolutely, yeah, I do cry. I've been crying since the 3rd of December. I've been living out of my car since the 3rd of December. So I've been crying. But again, you get it out. You feel, if you're in tune with your body, you can feel that point in your nervous system when it starts to shut down, and then you can focus, and then you can redirect. If you self-discipline and you do things with your mind, and say as far as practicing positive affirmations or different things like that, so that way you can redirect and retune your mind, so that way that the negativity doesn't get to you. Because if you think negative, then negative things are going to happen. You can't manifest positive things if you're thinking negatively. It just doesn't work that way. So again, you have a bad moment, and then okay, hey, look, that a little chink in the armor, and then I just keep it moving. But that's me. Everybody's different. So it depends on what your goals are and what your objectives are in life. Mine is to keep moving forward and keep finding, positive things. It's easy to find the negative things if you're looking for them.
That's true. Very true. Okay, we have a couple of questions. Hi, Beverly. Well, Pooch from Pretty and Pooch says, I get what you're saying, Jamaal. Lynn, like me, a woman, says, her question is, has anyone ever accused you of not having feelings?
Absolutely. But can we go back to what you just said? You said Lynn, like me, a woman, right?
Because Jamal, let me tell you this, because
Right.
as a child that was abused,
Uh-huh.
right?
Right.
That has turned into, or did for, my gosh, 20 plus years. I was a coach of children, a Sunday school teacher for years with children. And because I want children to be able to be seen, to know that they are loved, and that they are able to express to me how they feel. I want to hug you. So when I look at you, or when I hear your story, Jamal, or any man or any woman, I'm a nurturer. I'm a woman who thinks, I get working through, and Pooch being a man, and I'm not pitting male against female at all.
Okay.
I'm saying that I mean, men and women are so different. And as a mother, I'm thinking, my thought is not accusing you of not having feelings at all, but thinking, for me, if I'm sad about something, and my feelings are hurt, or I'm heartbroken of something, I have to feel, I have to cry, I have to feel. And then it may take me a day. It might take me 2 days to heal, or to just get that. Pooch and I were chatting before this started, and that sometimes a really good cry actually does cleanse. It feels like you've released something, that you've cleansed your soul, and that now I can think clearly because I've cried, I've gotten it out. That pain in my heart or in my head is gone. Now I can think about what's going on.
Okay. So what I'll say is, because you said feeling, so that goes back to the emotional piece.
Yes.
Because we can easily say, absolutely, take the time that you need, because who knows when you may get over it, because you're only going to know is when you make a decision in your mind and say you've gotten over it. Or you can say, here's a 5-step program, like they have on grief, like they have on love, heartbreak, alcoholism, different things that can get you there faster. So then, am I the bad guy, or am I looked at different because I can provide you a way to get there faster? Or because it's all dependent. Again, it goes back to being subjective, because it depends. So if you had to get back to work, right, it's circumstantial. So it just depends on what it was. That absolutely you need your time to grieve or to go through and process. And that's the key word, is process. So as long as you have a process, I think that matters. Because if not, then you can be sitting in the corner and then you're not getting over it. You're just biding time.
That's true, and can sink into a depression that's going to keep you there longer than it would have had you had a process, had you had some stuff. Okay, I'm getting it. I get it. Okay.
Right. And say, to double back what the comment is, have I ever been? Absolutely. I've been told I don't have any emotions, but
really,
well, I mean, because you have to think about, so everybody has their different paths, right?
Yes.
Everybody goes through things differently. Like you said, you may learn about taking maybe meditation, maybe taking 15 minutes to sit down, gather your thoughts, and then allow that to process, and then figure out where how you feel about that mentally, physically, and spiritually. I may have a background, again, using the military, more process oriented. Grab a checklist, go get this out and knock this out, because they're really, depending on what it is, you allow the room for the emotion piece, for comfort, I guess, for that human factor. So it just depends on what you're doing. You can schedule time in there for that, or you can just, provide people resources so that way they can get over those obstacles that they may have. And if you provide somebody with resources, it may be looked at as you don't have emotions, because you don't care about how I go through this personally and process it. You're just trying to give me these resources or checklists or whatever, so that way I can do it your way. So it can be looked at, because it's all about perspective, and again, being subjective. it can be looked at different ways, because both things can be true.
Yes, that is so true. That's such a great way to explain that, for sure. Okay, so I take it back. Lynn says she's been told that she was emotionless.
Okay,
So
Lynn.
sorry. I guess I should have spoke for myself and being this woman who is yikes.
That's all right. Good job, Lynn.
That's right, Lynn. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your podcast and what your hopes are for it. Again, it can be found on Prospera TV Network.
Absolutely.
And Silent No More. And are you looking for guests, and how would someone be able to get in touch with you?
Yes, I am looking for guests. I'm looking for people with open minds. I'm not looking to argue or debate with anybody. I'm looking to have just a nice conversation and talk about, and it says for men's, because there's so many things outlets and platforms for women, but I'm definitely open to, because I've got quite a few emails from women that saying that they would like the opportunity to come on the show and have a conversation, and voice their opinion as well. So I'm definitely open to that. I'm open to doing, experiencing some case studies from some men that had some situations, and maybe just go through a scenario from their perspective, and let's all just kind of quarterback it and go through it and just provide some content. Because what happens is a lot of people go through, scenarios in their relationships. They may only get their point of view, and because of the communication piece, they might not necessarily be able to walk through and see why they didn't connect with that spouse or that other person. And so that way they can get a better understanding and process it within their mind and help them move forward in whatever relationships, whether it's personal or professional.
I love that. Yes. And that is so true. I have to tell you that my husband and I actually had to go to communications counseling because we are complete opposites. I am very much a nurturer, and he's a wonderful man, good man. I love him to death. He has loved me through some of my really bad habits, thoughts, the way you process thinking. He really has. At first, I was totally against it. I was like that's no, but he really, one thing that he said to me is, and I was like really mad about it at first.
Okay.
And I think a good coach can make you mad.
Okay.
But it's a good coach. So, Elena Rodriguez, the founder of Prospera TV Network, she was my life coach for a little while. This was way back in 2018, 2019. And she would say some things and I was like, no. But I have learned I'm not that way anymore, because people like you, Jamaal, my husband, Elena, have really helped me learn how to process, learn how to communicate. And the one thing that my husband said to me that really made me mad at first, and not anymore, I'm so glad that he shared what he shared. He said, Tish, you listen to react. You listen to react and respond. You're not hearing me. And I was like, I hear you and you're pissing me off. And so that's what I hear. That's what I know.
Right.
And because I guess I was just so used to not being heard, that was the problem. I always felt like I wasn't being heard. And, but I've unlearned that thought process. We now process through, I know him, he knows me, we know each other's triggers and whatnot, all the things. And it's so good. It
right?
is. Yes. And you're right. Having a process through communication, having steps does get you through something faster. It is faster.
It is.
Like we do now, it's not long and drawn out and like I'm not speaking to you for however long. Now it's like, okay, let's figure this out. What happened? Why are are you feeling the way you're feeling, or, and taking accountability and ownership. I'm
Oh
sorry
my
that I
God,
said,
like two adults. Look at you, y'all adulting.
can you believe?
Tish, hold on a second. Let's pivot. Let me ask you a question. So you said with your husband when he said that. So why were you against it initially?
Against
What the feedback he was providing you?
that is such a good question.
Be honest. Everybody's waiting.
Oh gosh. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I really, so to be completely honest, I didn't think that he heard me the way that I was, what I meant by what I was saying. Like, I didn't feel like he understood my way of communication. And I guess, like, I would just always say, but you don't even hear me. You're not even listening to me. And then he would say, well, you're not listening to me either. And I was like, so
imagine how many spouses go through that every day.
Yes.
And I imagine how many women go through that and how many men go through that trying to assist and help their spouses, and their spouses aren't receptive of that. So many relationships are ruined because of that.
You are exactly right.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
I really think that, it was an intervention. Maybe you can help me figure out what the problem is. I feel like he just didn't understand my way of communicating. Like, I wasn't saying anything to be mean.
I can't help you. Let me help you. I'm cutting you off because you said I feel. That's where you're going wrong, is the feel part. I mean, if somebody's talking to you and they're trying to explain to you, again, it goes back to the communication. We got to be able to believe the person that we're having a conversation with. You got to be able to trust what they're saying, that they're actually, you know what I mean? I mean, you got to be able to believe them and trust what they're saying, because like you mentioned earlier about the judgment piece. I mean, you imagine somebody that you're sharing a home and a bed with, and they're trying to talk to you about something, and you're already judging them and saying, nah, you don't know. You believe there's no way you know. And they've been with you for X amount of years. They probably know you better than you know yourself, because you walk into a room, they watch your right hand, it goes towards that toothbrush, left hand goes to the sink. You do the same thing every time, then you drop it in the sink. I mean, it's the little things, that they pick on you, and it will be cute at first, and then you get pissed off and irritated about it. Okay, I got it.
No, but that's true, Jamaal. That is so true. And, it really did finally come down to, I had to remember that. And I also had to tell him that I would never say, what kind of person would I be if I was saying anything to intentionally hurt you? Right. And the same from him. So once I understood that, he's not saying anything. And what kind of man would he be? What kind of husband would he be if he were saying things to intentionally hurt me? Okay, that's abuse. And this man would never do that. Once I understood that, then it became understanding the communication piece. And yes, we are two adults. There's no reason to be fighting, and I feel you hurt my feelings or whatever, but I now can communicate, and I can hear him. I hear him and he hears me, and it's been good. So good advice, Jamaal. I really appreciate you. And I know that you're going to be helping out so many people, men and women, hearing the men's perspective, and for women to hear men's perspectives, and for men to hear women's. But I really appreciate what you are doing. So I'm going to ask you this question I ask everybody. And you guys, the links are in the comments. There's also in the description on how you can get in touch with Jamaal. And also Jamaal's podcast or show is coming out on Prospera TV Network. It is called Silent No More. So just go to Prospera TV Network and subscribe to it, and you will see the playlist of all of the podcasts, all the television shows there. It also streams through Roku, and so you'll be able to find Jamaal's podcast. But Jamaal, I'm going to ask you this question that I ask everybody before we end.
Okay.
After everything that you have been through, we're talking childhood um, abuse, neglect, people not listening or not having someone to go to. You go into the military and you create this group, this friendship. For 20 years, you serve in the military. You your career in the military, you're finished with that. You move on to do coaching and some mentoring, and you come to a place now where you are at and where you're moving through. Where or who, Jamaal, who would you say after all of that, here we are today, who would you say that Jamaal is today? Who are you today?
That's a great question. Great question. Um, After 20 years, if you asked me 4 months ago, I could have gave you an answer. My life, it has been transformed.
Hmm.
I don't know who I am. I'm excited to find out though. So
Absolutely.
let's double back in about 6 months.
Okay. So here's what I see, Jamaal. I see in the time that you and I have spent together, meaning just from brief phone call, brief conversation, and this podcast interview today, I see a man who is incredibly intelligent, a man who, in a matter of minutes, in a deep, raw, honest conversation, helped me to understand communication a little bit better. I see a man on a mission to help, and to lead others, nurture nature, to be that vessel for God. That's where the transformation comes from. And you are on a mission, serving Him, helping other people become who they are meant to be. So they experience that transformation through you, God using you. Jamaal, you're on this planet, in this world, for bigger and better things than you even think of, that you can even imagine. And 4 months ago, you might have been somewhere where you're like, man, I don't believe that. Here you are. Here you are today. My gosh, a man with a new job, a new career, a man with a podcast, and one that is going to lead others to their success, whether that's mental, whether that's emotional, whatever that is. You've got the tools, my friend, because you helped me in a matter of minutes. And I'm so looking forward to your podcast and where it takes you and where you take other people. That's what I see. I think you're a great man. You're a great young man.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And so, Jamaal, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing, and for opening this podcast, for starting your show. And I know for sure, I know for sure that you're out to change people's lives, and I appreciate you. I really do.
Hey, I appreciate you. Appreciate you having me.
Of course, of course. Well, we look forward to catching your show. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to call it a podcast. It's a talk show. My apologies.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Any last words, Jamaal? Anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah. As you and I both know, we had a phone call last week, and it was a rough one. You know, it took me a couple of days to process and be able to help that individual out. But one of the things I got from him is we kind of started to show off that way. Is one of the things that helped them out was somebody took a few minutes out of their day just to ask them how they were doing. So if you have the opportunity, you know, stop and say hello, and just ask how somebody's doing, and just just take a few minutes to be human.
Yes. Yes. Yes, I do know that phone call. And yes, to just smile, to just say hello, take a few minutes. And one thing that you said earlier is like people are so used to saying, hey, how are you? Fine. How are you? Fine. And then that's it. Like really take a few minutes to really, when you're asking that question, to have the time to be able to really hear how someone is doing. It can save people's lives. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, Jamaal. Well, until next time, my friend, I really, really enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward again to watching your first episode of Silent No More on Prospera TV Network. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Silent no more. I'm done fighting this war. What I'm feeling, weakness is something worth fighting.